I do know that going after the one group that makes money and, yeah, spends money, and by the way, creates jobs, is likely the wrong thing to do in an economy that is still weak. Congressman Kevin Brady of Texas, a senior House Republican on the Joint Economic Committee, and he joins us now from Washington, D.C. Congressman Brady, thank you very much for joining us. Do you think the president's plan will go through and the tax hike on that, quote, 2 to 3% is going to take effect?
I sure hope not. I can't think of a bigger job-killing measure than that. There are a lot of them, by the way, the White House is proposing, but this may be the most dangerous one. You raise taxes on the small businesses and professionals who, one, buy about 30% of what's consumed in America, so much for getting the economy back on track, and create a majority of the small business jobs. So the very groups you want to encourage to help us get back on the economic recovery, you're punishing. And your point, Brian, about spending was on target. This year, you could double everyone's taxes in America. We would still be running a deficit. We are so far out of whack. You cannot tax yourself back to a balanced budget.
Listen, many Democrats, many on the left will say, stop whining. You make a lot of money. You don't need another boat. We need to pay down the deficit. And the Republicans have been screaming about the deficit, and now they're trying to help by raising this tax rate, and yet here Republicans are again opposing it. How do you square the viewpoints?
Well, two things. The best way to balance the budget is to control spending and get the economy back on track, something neither of which the president seems to be interested in this year. And besides, why would you punish small businesses and professionals who are getting that extra degree, starting that business, taking that risk? You want to actually reward that in America instead of doing the opposite. So it makes no sense on any level.
Yeah, according to the Americans for Tax Reform, the majority of small business filers would be in this higher tax rate, and 34% of those filing as sole proprietors are also going to take a hit. Is there any question in your mind, Congressman, that will have a negative effect on an already weak job market?
It will, and all you need to do is look at Europe, who took the same approach. We'll just keep taxing people more and more. And as you know, now they have a government whose anchor is around, it's so big, it's an anchor around their prosperity. And businesses and individuals quit producing and investing in Europe. That's what's going to happen in the United States. It's a unfortunate self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you tax, the less you get of wealth and jobs.
Well, if anybody's still listening to the former Fed chairman, Alan Greenspan said about 2 weeks ago that if you're serious about the deficit, you might as well let them expire across all the income groups, not just on the top. Would you agree with that?
Well, no, I wouldn't, because I can't imagine most families can take another $3,000 a year in extra taxes. In fact, most families say, look, before we tighten our belt, Washington, why don't you try tightening yours by stopping all this spending? I think that's where the American public wants us to go.
Yeah, and that is a myth, right? I mean, the Bush tax cuts did cost the Treasury some income, according to almost every statistic, but the spending has been exponentially greater than any cost from the tax cuts. Is this a great way, though, Congressman, for the Democrats to sort of push attention away from the deficit? Kind of the old, look over here, but the problem is actually here with spending. It's a great political tactic.
It is. Yeah, it is, but something, the great thing is the American public is informed about this. Those who know that these tax cuts are going away at the end of the year, universally opposed to letting them expire. They know it is spending, and they also know long term, unless you get the size of the government down, you can tax and tax and tax and tax. You won't balance that budget.
Congressman Kevin Brady of Texas, sir, thank you very much for joining us on America's Nightly Scoreboard. Take care.